When I build review content, I try to keep on my coaching hat, which means when I'm building reviews and roundups and comparisons, I try to look at shoes from an objective point of view as to who is this shoe going to be best for, objectively speaking, and what type of foot anatomies. I try not to inject a ton of my personal opinions and biases into those pieces of review content. But I've had a lot of asks lately asking Jake, like, what is your personal favorite training shoe at the moment? So I regularly rotate through shoes that I really like when I'm not doing reviews. So for example, when I'm not building a review for the channel and for the website, what shoes am I wearing? Like, what do I go back to? What do I keep in my rotation? So I have 6 models up here that I don't think you can go wrong with. Honestly, I love all these shoes for CrossFit, cross training, lifting, and even some daily wear. And so the 6 shoes up here include the Born Primitive Savage 1, the Innovate F-Lite, the Nike Metcon 1 OG, the Strike Movement Transit Street Trainer Mid, we have the Under Armour TriBase Rain 6, and the RAD ONE V2. Let's dive into these shoes and I'll discuss why I personally like them and keep them heavy in my rotation. So first up, we have the RAD ONE V2. Now, this shoe has grown on me. I don't necessarily love the wave design, but you cannot fault the shoe's performance, and I have been coming back to them regularly for my lifting and CrossFit focused sessions. And so with this model, who is this shoe going to be best for? If you are somebody who is heavy into CrossFit, or if you want a training shoe that can work for athletic workouts, but then also some lifting, the RAD ONE V2 can be a really awesome option to go with. So 3 things to like with this shoe include, number 1, its overall durability for CrossFit lifting and cross training. Thus far, this shoe has held up really well. Like, I'm starting to have a tiny bit of lipping here on the wave outsole on my medial side back here on the heel, but really that's the only real blemish that I've had with this model. And outside of just me kind of noticing that if I really look at it, the shoe has held up exceptionally well. So I really like them for anybody who's going to be really abusing their shoes on a daily basis. The second thing that I like about this model is its platform. This model I think feels better for lifting. We have less toe spring in this model compared to the RAD ONE V1. And so if you're doing a lot of heavy free weight work or heavy machine work, this model can be a really good option for giving you a nice stability and slightly wider platform. The third thing to like about this shoe is the upper security. So with the mesh and textile and suede overlays on this model's upper, it locks your foot down really well. And now the upper volume can feel a little bit limiting at times. So what my suggestion would be is to take out this insole, it's a little bit thicker, and use a thinner insole. That can help with that a lot. Or wear thinner socks, and that can also help with that. That way you get a little bit more upper volume and you still get to capitalize on that upper security of this shoe. And now when it comes to sizing of the RAD ONE V2, I think most lifters and athletes should be safe going true to size. I went true to size in this shoe. I have a normal instep, normal arch, and an E to double E width foot, and I fit this shoe pretty true. I have just about a thumb's width at the end of my toe box, if not just a little bit less. So if you are around that D, E, double E foot width, true to size will be the call. Even narrow feet should be safe going true to size. If you have a 3E foot width or wider, you may want to go up a half size in the RAD ONE V2, but this model has been exceptionally solid. I've worn them for daily wear, CrossFit, lifting, and they have performed really well for my needs. The next shoe that I've been wearing a lot is the Innovate F-Lite. So I will wear this shoe primarily for my athletic focus sessions or for my CrossFit focus days where I want a slightly wider toe box and a little bit more plush midsole for running or jumping needs. This midsole is a little bit more bouncy in my opinion than some of the other more dense training shoes that I wear regularly, which I will discuss in this video. But with the Innovate F-Lite, who is this shoe going to be best for? I think if your main asks revolve around lifting, CrossFit, and cross training, and you have a wider foot, the F-Lite can be a really good option. This model has one of the widest toe boxes in the current lineup of CrossFit focused training shoes, so I think it does scratch that nice niche itch for that foot anatomy. Now, 3 things to like with this shoe include, number 1, I really like the PowerFlow Max midsole in this model. This midsole I think does a really good job at giving you a nice plush ride, and it doesn't totally beat your feet up while also giving you a good level of stability. You can train heavy in the shoe, but you can also run shorter distances like 1 mile to 2 miles in this or intervals, and it doesn't completely beat your feet up. It's that good bridge model between the F-Lite, which is a little bit more hybrid, and the F-Lite Max, which is a little bit more dense for lifting purposes. The second thing to like with this shoe is its flexibility and its weight. So this model has a lot of flex to it. It's very easy to break in, and it's pretty dang lightweight. The upper isn't super overbearing, so if you like a more spacious, wispy, and breathable upper, this model can be good to go with, and it has a lot of flex again through that forefoot. The third thing to like with this shoe is, for the most part, the durability has been really solid in the shoe. I have yet to have any issues up here on the upper despite it running a little bit more lightweight. The outsole has also held up pretty well, and with this Met cradle here on the midfoot, you do get additional protection and security when you're doing CrossFit or cross training workouts where you're putting a lot of stress into the upper of your shoe. Now, when it comes to sizing of this model, if you have a narrow foot width, you should be safe going true to size. If you have a medium or wider foot width, you will likely want to go up a half size, especially if you like a little bit more room at the end of your toe box. This model has been running notoriously a half size small, and if you decide to go with this shoe and you're kind of on the fence, if you go through that Fit Friend shop, I'll cover your returns if they don't work out for you. So please definitely take me up on that and hit me up if you need additional help there. But overall, the F-Lite has been a really solid wide option for me with my current training. The next model I want to cover is the Nike Metcon 1 OG. You know what's funny? I actually forgot I had the shoe and then saw my buddy wearing this in the gym like 3 weeks ago. And I was like, oh shit, like I still have the Metcon 1. I want to wear that model again because I loved how the older Metcons felt. And so who is this shoe going to be best for? I think if you love the older training shoes that Nike used to produce and even Reebok used to produce, this is going to be a good option to go with. Stock up now before they discontinue them once again. And we're all like, Nike, why do you keep messing up really good things and then giving us cinder blocks like the Nike Metcon 9? I also think this shoe is going to be best for anybody who wants a shoe for lifting, cross training, and CrossFit. It's a denser shoe and gives you a nice stability, and its upper durability tends to do a really good job. Now, 3 things to like with this shoe is number 1, its stability. Now with this shoe, you have a drop-in midsole. This is what gives this shoe its responsiveness and plushness. And now if you take this insole out and you swap in a thinner insole, you have a super flexible and dense shoe for lifting. And so what I would suggest doing is if you want this model for lifting, but then also doing some cross training, you have some nice dual functionality with the shoe that I think a lot of folks sleep on, to be honest. The second thing to like with the shoe is its durability. For the most part, the shoe tends to be really durable. You have a full rubber outsole, so they typically don't break down super fast. When it comes to the tread fading or having, for example, the tread or outsole start to lip away from the midsole, it's not an issue in this model. And also with the upper, it is reinforced mesh with textile overlays throughout, so it typically does a really good job at giving you additional protection from abrasion and whatnot while you're training. The third thing I like with this shoe is I think if you like lower volume training shoes and lower boots, and you just don't really love the current landscape of bulkier training shoes, that's where the Metcon 1 can be a really good option to go with. Now, when it comes to sizing in this shoe, I would say most folks should be safe going true to size. They do have a slightly wider toe box up there. What I would say though is if you have a very high instep or a thick foot, you may want to again swap in a different insole in the shoe to get a little bit more upper volume, because the upper volume can feel a bit low in this model. That was one of the issues that a lot of folks had with the older Metcons. Despite a lot of folks loving them, they can feel a little bit snug, so definitely keep that in mind. But you will change the overall responsiveness of the shoe, so you will have to also think about that and factor that in. But for the most part, true to size should be the call in this model for most lifters and athletes. The next shoe I want to talk about is the Under Armour TriBase Rain 6. I actually just bought a new colorway. This is my new fresh white gum pair, and it's chef's kiss. But this shoe, it's very, very interesting regarding its fit and feel. It is not going to be a training shoe that I think works for everybody, but for my needs, I actually really like them, and I really like how unique they are regarding their specs and just what goes into this shoe. Now, who is this shoe going to be best for? I think if you like a flatter feeling training shoe and you want a shoe for lifting, CrossFit, and cross training, that's where the TriBase Rain 6 makes a lot of sense. So 3 things to like with this model is number 1, similar to the Metcon 1, you have a drop-in midsole with this shoe. So the insole here is what gives this shoe its responsiveness. As you can see, it's a little thicker. Without this in, this shoe is very low profile and very thin and flexible. So similar to the Metcon 1, if you want that shoe that can give you best of both worlds regarding a little bit more comfort and plushness for cross training, but then a very flat feel if you want to put a flatter insole in for lifting and getting closer to the ground, that's where the Rain 6 I think can make a lot of sense. The second thing to like with the shoe is its overall durability. So you have this warp upper construction and you have an aggressive outsole wrap on the lateral and medial side and additional layering here back through the midfoot into the heel. For the most part, durability doesn't tend to be an issue with this shoe regarding the outsole lipping or the upper breaking down, so this model should last you quite a while. I actually saw a guy at my gym the other day literally wearing the same shoe, and he was like, yeah, I've had this shoe for 11 months now and I abused the heck out of them, and he only had some minor upper blemishes, and I feel like a shoe lasting a year in 2025 after beating them up literally every day for both daily wear and then also training, that's a really good sign of this shoe, and I have yet to have any issues with my pairs too. The third thing to like with the shoe is, again, if you like a flatter training shoe, that's where the Rain 6 can make a lot of sense. This model has a heel to toe drop of 2 millimeters. That is lower than most modern day training shoes. And again, if you take out that drop in midsole, then you'll have a true zero drop shoe if you put in a different insole in this model, and you'll have a much more minimalist barefoot shoe kind of feeling with this model. Now, when it comes to sizing in this shoe, most should be safe going true to size in this model. Again, I have an E to double E with foot, normal arch, and this model fits true. Now, it does have a lower profile upper, and with this drop in midsole, it can put a bit of pressure on your forefoot and midfoot. So if you have a high instep or a thicker foot, you may be in that camp that needs to swap out that midsole, because I'm not convinced you'll have enough upper volume in this shoe. So definitely consider that, or go with a different option like the RAD ONE V2 in this video, the Born Primitive Savage one, or the Innovate F-Lite. Those models will give you a little bit more upper volume compared to the Rain 6, but overall true to size should be the move for most lifters and athletes. The next shoe I want to discuss is the Born Primitive Savage 1. So this model I would put into the same camp as like the Nike Metcon 1 regarding delivering that more old school training shoe feel. Now the reason I will reach for this model sometimes over the Metcon 1 is because it has a traditional midsole and outsole versus that drop-in midsole. So if you want a low stack height, kind of minimalist feeling training shoe, this can be a really good option. And if you take out the insole in this model, it gives it a slightly wider fit. And I don't think you need to necessarily put in a different insole in most cases if you want that more low stack height feel with your training shoe. Now, what is this shoe going to be best for? If you want a shoe for CrossFit, lifting, and cross training, and you need a wider toe box, that is where the Born Primitive Savage 1 can make a lot of sense. Now, 3 things that I like with this shoe is it's a really good shoe for doing a bit of everything. It has good durability and grip with this outsole, and with this upper construction, it tends to be really durable. Like, I have played a lot of pickleball in this shoe, and I'm only just now starting to get this scuffing up here on the toe box. That's from really aggressive digs on concrete. So if you want that training shoe that's kind of bomb-proof, that works for a little bit of everything, that's where the Born Primitive Savage 1 I think makes a lot of sense. The second thing to like with this shoe is, again, that lower stack height and platform. If you want a shoe primarily for lifting and heavy strength work, this can be a great option to go with. It gets you really close to the ground. If you take that insole out, it gives you even more ground feel, and it's very flexible and it breaks in fast. And so if you like more flexible and articulative training shoes, this can be a really good option. And then the third thing to like with the shoe is its wider fit. And if you take the insole out of this shoe, I'm telling you right now, it's like a cheat code. Or swap in an insole from something like a barefoot shoe, this model gets a lot more spacious regarding its midfoot and its forefoot volume. So definitely consider that. It's a good option for wide feet who want that shoe for CrossFit, lifting, and cross training. I also have these available on that Fit Friend shop as well. And if you decide to go with a pair and they don't work, I will cover your returns, no questions asked. I got you on that. Now, when it comes to sizing of the Born Primitive Savage 1, most lifters and athletes should be safe going true to size in this shoe. If you have like 3E foot widths or wider, again, take out the insole, and I think that should give you a fit that works for your feet, but true to size should be the call for most. The final shoe I want to cover, and this is honestly what I would say like is my most goated shoe. Like, if you've DM'd me, and I've had like probably 5 or 6 people do this over the last couple of weeks asking me about my favorite training shoe at the moment, it is the Strike Movement Transit Street Trainer Mid. I love this shoe for cross training, lifting, and also daily wear. If I'm traveling right now, this has been my go-to shoe. It used to be the Haze, but actually this model has swapped it out, and it has become my go-to shoe at the moment. Now, 3 things to like with this shoe is, number 1, I love the extra boot support that you get with this shoe and how you can wear it a little bit looser or crank down the laces to get a bit more security. So I will typically actually wear mine and train in it like this, so a little bit looser so I can slide my foot in and out. It makes it very convenient, and I also just like the slightly looser fit of it. It gives it a slightly more bulky look, so I like that as well. But from an overall security standpoint, the boot does a really good job at giving you both lateral support and locking your boot down. So even if you wear this shoe looser, I don't think you're gonna have issues with slip in this model at all. The second thing to like with this shoe is that it works really great for cross training and lifting. Traditionally, high top shoes could be a little bit limiting. For example, like the GoRec Ballistic Trainer Mid, and then you also have the Noble high top trainer. They're decent for cross training, but they don't really give you a more athletic feel, in my opinion. They're a little bit heavy and bulky. This shoe does a really good job because it's built for skating and giving you that slightly more versatile edge. So the midsole breaks in really quick and has a good flexibility to it. And because it's built for skating, there's enough cushion, I think, to give you a little bit more comfort for plyos or any form of versatile training where you're doing a lot of multi-directional work or any form of high impact work. The third thing to like with this shoe is I think once you break it in, it has a really good fit to it and you can wear it casually. So if you want that training shoe that you can both go hard in the gym, but then rock out and about for both travel or just some casual wear or wearing out to the bars. Like, I have worn this shoe out, for example, with my boys many times, and they're honestly like, those are sick. They look just like Vans, but they're a little bit more toned down regarding the branding and everything. So if that's something you're after, that's where I think this shoe can also excel. Now, when it comes to sizing of this model, true to size should be the call for most individuals. Now, this is not the widest shoe in the market. So if you have a 3E foot width or wider, I would say pass on this shoe. And if you have a 2E or E width foot, you will want to give the shoe 1 to 2 weeks to break in fully, because this upper, it is a little bit heavier because it's a skate shoe, does take a little bit of time to break in, but this model has been one of my go-to shoes and probably my most worn shoe as of right now over the last 2 to 3 months. All right, guys, that wraps up my personal favorite list of training shoes at the moment in early 2025. Now, there are a lot of awesome shoes that I didn't include in this list. For example, the Tier CXT2, the Nike Free Metcon 6, we have the Adidas Drop Set 3. All of those shoes are fantastic. These are just the 6 that I've been going back to that I just personally really like and really jive with when it comes to my training needs. If you have additional questions on any of these shoes, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And if you've worn any of these shoes, what do you like about them? What don't you like about them? Let me know in the comments below because I'm really curious how aligned my personal favorites are with your personal favorites.